Hello, everyone. So I want to start by saying, if you've ever tried to coordinate a rare disease conference and getting this many CDG families, clinicians, researchers all in the same room at the same time, it is nothing short of a miracle. For the families who made it here this weekend, we know it was stressful. We know there were unknowns. We know that leaving the house sometimes feels like orchestrating a small circus and packing up a large pharmacy. For the families who brought their children this weekend, thank you. Thank you for the planning, the packing, the tucked away stress, and the sheer determination it took to walk through that door. You knew you needed this. Please give yourselves a round of applause. And for the families like me who left their kids at home to be here, you moved mountains too. You made impossible arrangements, you wrote the detailed schedule, you labeled every medication, and you said a little prayer that everybody is following the plan, and you were also desperately hoping that shit doesn't hit the fan before you land back at home, just like me. Give yourself a round of applause too. If you were hoping to wake up bright and early and get a formal lecture from me, I'm not a morning person. But I do want to have a real conversation with all of you because that's what we're talking about today. It's something every single person in this room already knows how to do. You just might not realize how truly powerful it is. So before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about the path that led me to stand before you today. My son Dominic was born in July of 2017, and from the very beginning, I knew that something wasn't right. I wish the people who told me I was just an overly worried mom had been correct. I prayed that they were right. But deep in my heart, the pieces weren't adding up. And at 5 months old, my precious little boy was diagnosed with PMM2 CDG. Everyone in this room remembers that day. The moment the weight of those words land on your chest, the walls closing in, the world continuing to move around you like nothing happened, while you are completely, utterly stopped. The desperate need for answers nobody can give you, friends and family saying, "We're here for you," and really meaning it, and yet somehow you have never felt more alone in your life. In those first frantic, desperate weeks, I did what most of us do. I searched. It was just me and that search bar at 2 a.m., hoping something, anything, would come back with hope attached to it. And that's when I found CDG CARE. I sent an email to their contact address, not really expecting much, and Andrea Miller responded back and got on the phone with me immediately. And for the first time in months, I was able to exhale. There was a community. There was a Facebook group full of smiling faces, kids who maybe were doing everything a typical kid does, but they were smiling. They were happy. And something about those photos and being part of a community reached through the screen and changed the entire trajectory of my life. I was a hairstylist from Chicago. I had no medical background, no advocacy experience. I hate science, sorry. But I had felt what it was like to be lost and then found, and I knew I couldn't keep that to myself. So I got to work. Because what I wanted every family who got that diagnosis to feel what I felt on that phone call with Andrea that day, that exhale, that, oh, thank God, we are not alone. That was 8 years ago. Today, I help coordinate outreach, advocacy, communication, and connection for our CDG CARE community, social media, newsletters, webinars, fundraising campaigns, CDG Awareness Day, and I also co-host our podcast, GlycoCast. But every single thing I do comes back to these words: empower, connect, build community. Because I know something to be true. When families feel supported, connected, and confident in their own voice, progress follows, research moves faster, care improves, families find each other sooner, and nobody has to sit alone at 2 a.m. with a search bar and nowhere to turn. Now, I want to be honest with you. I know that there's some of you sitting in here today carrying fear about the future. Fear about what your child's life will look like. Whether they'll get sick, whether they'll have a seizure, whether they'll ever look at you and say the words, "I love you." I've sat in that fear too. I still do. We can't control most of that, we know that, but here is what we can control: our story. All right, so let's start with some context because I think it helps us understand why sharing our stories matters so much in this rare disease space. Our CDG community is small in numbers, which, as most of you know, creates real challenges. We have fewer resources, fewer aware clinicians, and fewer research dollars automatically flowing our way. Although I am still personally holding on to hope that a multi-billionaire is gonna stand up from his yacht one day and just really decide that CDG research is his thing. But here's the gift inside of being so rare. Every voice genuinely matters. Every family who speaks up, who tells their story, makes a measurable difference. We don't get lost in the crowd because we are the crowd, and I can prove it. The average rare disease patient sees 7 doctors over 4 to 5 years before they ever get a correct diagnosis. 7 doctors, 4 to 5 years. Some of you were told you were overreacting. Some of you watched your child get misdiagnosed, sometimes more than once. Some of you knew in your gut something was seriously wrong and still had to fight to be heard. And because CDG is so rare, most doctors, even the best ones, have simply never seen it before. Your child's symptoms could be pointing directly at CDG, and a doctor could look right at them and not know what the hell they're looking at. That is the reality of rare disease. And that is exactly why every family who speaks up, who shares their story, who helps us build awareness, is directly changing that number for the family coming after them. So when I say your story really matters, I mean it literally. That is why your voice matters, that is why showing up matters, and that is why being here this weekend matters. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Sharing my story sounds big. I have no time. Sounds like you need your own TED Talk, maybe your own news segment, a large following on social media. It sounds like you need to have it all figured out. Here's the truth. Sharing your story is none of those things. It is telling your coworker what CDG is when they ask why your kid missed school again. It is posting a photo of your child and writing 3 honest sentences. It is answering another research questionnaire at midnight from your couch. It is showing up to one of our CDG community connections and saying, "We are going through this too." Sharing your story is just speaking your truth, in whatever form that takes and however your life allows you. Okay, I want you to really feel this one because this is where it matters most. Your story, your data, your observations, your lived experience, these directly shape the research being done on CDG, and not in like a vague feel-good way, like literally. Researchers can only study what they can measure. Natural history studies exist because caregivers like you documented timelines, milestones, and symptoms, often in the middle of the night, often in between appointments, and often on top of everything else you were already doing. When scientists decide what to prioritize, what to investigate next, they want to be guided by what families say matters most. I want you to really hear that. We have the power. The questions researchers are asking right now, they were shaped in part by families who spoke up, by parents who wrote the emails, that asked the questions, showed up at scientific meetings to say, here is what my child's life looks like, and here is what would help to improve their future. Your observations are not anecdotes, they are data, and data changes science. Your story doesn't just matter to researchers and labs, it actually matters every single day in clinical settings. You are already shaping clinical care. You probably just haven't been calling it that. Can I get a show of hands? How many of you have ever walked into a doctor's appointment and had to explain what CDG was? Every single hand raised in this room is proof that you are already sharing your story. Every explanation, every appointment, every time you spell out the word glycosylation for a new specialist, that is sharing your story. You are the expert. You have always been the expert. The symptoms you tracked at 2 a.m., the regression you noticed before anyone else did, the therapy that worked, the medication that didn't, the milestone that came late, the milestone you may still be waiting for. That is clinical data, and it lives in your head, or like me in your notes app, not in any medical journal. But your story doesn't just live in your memory, it lives in your relationships, in your care team, and the specialists who have gone above and beyond for your child. And in January, CDG CARE built a place for all those incredible people in your child's life who have even made the slightest difference, because in our world, that's actually a really big difference. Can I get a show of hands, how many people in this room have more than 5 specialists on their child's care team? Keep your hands up if it's more than 10. The CDG CRN is our clinical and research network, a global alliance of clinicians, researchers, therapists, and students, all connected by one thing. They want to do more for your child. This network exists because families like you demanded better. Think about your care team, the neurologist who actually calls you back on a Saturday, the metabolic dietitian who didn't make you feel like a failure, the geneticist who didn't make you spell out glycosylation. Tell them about the CDG CRN. Tell them CDG is complex, it's fascinating, it's career defining. And if they need a little extra convincing, just let them know with over 200 different types and counting, we are basically job security. They'll never be bored. You're doing them a favor. When your child's doctor is connected to others who treat CDG, your child benefits. It's that direct. Now, I want to talk about something a little bit more personal, because sharing your story is not just good for research, it's not just good for the community, it is actually good for you. There is a real psychological value in naming your experience. When you say out loud, here is what our life looks like. Here is what CDG means for our family. Something shifts. The isolation loosens a little. Your nervous system registers that you are not carrying this alone. Every time you explain CDG to someone new, you become a little more fluent in your own story, a little more comfortable with your journey. The words get easier to say out loud. That emotional charge softens, not because the hard things aren't hard anymore, but because you've spoken them enough time in the air that no longer have the same grip on you. And when someone truly sees your reality, when a coworker says, "I had no idea, thank you for telling me," or a stranger online comments, "Our family is going through the exact same thing," that is not nothing, that is healing, and that is connection doing its deepest work. You don't need to be okay to share your story. You don't need to have it all figured out. I definitely do not. Sometimes sharing is how you will figure it out. When more families are engaged, our advocacy carries more weight. When we show up to research surveys, attend conferences like this one, and share CDG content, we grow our visibility in the eyes of researchers and stakeholders. And in rare disease, visibility is everything. Funding follows attention, and attention follows the voices of families who refuse to be quiet. I look around this room and I see the CDG community. I see researchers and clinicians who have dedicated their careers to our children. I see families who have traveled, some of you across the country, some of you across the world, because this conference mattered enough. This community is proof that love, shared stories, and connection create real, lasting change. It doesn't matter what CDG type your child has. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter how old your child is. And for angel families carrying their child's memory in your heart, you are still here. Your child's story still matters. We are not defined by our differences. We are united by the love for our kids and the fierce, unshakable belief that together we can do more. In case you didn't know, CDG CARE has many opportunities for our families to share their voice. If you would like to continue these conversations with our families from the comfort of your own couch in your pajamas, maybe kids running around in the back room, a G2 bump beeping off in the distance, then join us for one of our CDG Community Connections. We usually meet the first Tuesday of every month. On May 5th, we will be doing our What's on Your Mind format. There's no agenda, no pressure, just a comfortable space to be with others who truly understand this complex, crazy world we're living in. And if you didn't know, CDG CARE has a podcast called GlycoCast. Dr. Ivan Martinez-Dunker, CDG CARE's scientific advisor, and I sit down with families, researchers, clinicians, and really just talk about the real stuff. We're always looking for guests. We always want to hear a story, and you all have stories, so please contact us if you'd like to be on our show. Emails. I know we send a lot of them. If I could physically knock on every single one of your doors every time something important was happening in our community, I would. I would show up in your driveway, I would bring coffee, I would help change a diaper or change a G2 bag. But since I'm pretty sure that's illegal, I send emails. And I need you to know that every single one of them has a reason. There are opportunities tucked inside those messages, ways to share your experience, ways to get involved, ways to make sure the world knows that this community is showing up. And the surveys. Listen, I need another form to fill out like I need another insurance denial for a therapy my child's doctor already said he needs. But here's the truth. Some of them only take a few minutes, and all of them drive a purpose. Every answer you submit is a brick in the foundation of future research. So please, when you see one, fill it out. And last, and I really mean this, I am here. If you know you want to share your story but have no idea where to start, reach out to me. I'm a hairstylist by training. It is literally my specialty to listen to people talk. But this is just the beginning. CDG CARE has so much planned. New ways to connect, new ways to get involved, new ways to make your voice count, but we need you to show up. I'll end with this. Your story is not just yours. It belongs to every family who will hear it, every researcher who will be guided by it, and every child who will benefit from it. You may never know the full impact of your voice, but it echoes further than you think. So please, share. In whatever feels right, in whatever form you can manage, at whatever moment feels possible, the CDG community is stronger because you are in it. Thank you.